Healthcare consumers, providers, creators, and advocates. Health and wellness should be everyone's top priority, and it's a dynamic topic, complex and sensitive to a vast array of factors from a local to an international scale. The healthcare industry is now at the forefront of everyday life and hopefully on the cusp of a renaissance. We're glad you've joined us for this series that explores the ideas shaping healthcare. I'm Minta Ferguson, Healthcare Architect and Director of the Strategic Facility Planning Group, McMillan Pasden Smith Advisors. And this is Ideas Shaping Healthcare.
Freestanding Emergency Departments, also known as FSEDs, have emerged as a critical piece in today's healthcare infrastructure. Our guests today are William Kenley, Brett Justice, and Aaron Jeffers. They will share their experience in planning a new FSED in Anderson County, South Carolina.
Our first guest is William Kenley. He's the Chief Executive Officer at AnMed Health, located in Anderson, South Carolina. With over 20 years of experience as a healthcare executive, he has succeeded in complex opportunities, including strategic financial turnarounds, high-growth market development, and multi-facility system integration. He holds a Master of Healthcare Administration from Duke University. He's a Fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives and has been recognized by them and Memphis Business Journal. He is active and a leader in the community organizations and is also known to connect people to purpose, motivate teams, and inspire engagement. He's joined by Brett Justice, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at AnMed. He's an accomplished and analytically driven strategy and corporate development executive with over 25 years of success developing and implementing strategic growth initiatives in the healthcare industry. His focus has been delivering on 4 key outcomes: growing and positioning AnMed's business, protecting and promoting their brand, building effective teams, and supporting the great people who provide care to their customers. He holds a Master's of Healthcare Organizational Management from the University of South Florida. We're also joined by Aaron Jeffers. He's a principal and healthcare architect with McMillan Pasden Smith. He has over 25 years of experience in the industry, and 15 of those focused on healthcare. His specialty is acute care projects, especially those involving highly complex technical challenges and details. His passion is solving a problem. Aaron enjoys the journey of digging in and finding the root process that is driving design and flow, and then providing a successful plan and design. Well, thank you, Brett and William, both for joining us this morning. We're going to jump right into the questions, but I always think it's really important to get some context about decision-making on things like this. So, the community is really important to you. I know you're both involved in the community and getting to know them and understanding what their needs are. Can you give us that context? Who is the community that you're serving?
Sure, I'll start, and Brett, you can chime in. The Anderson community is a wonderful community that is experiencing a lot of growth and momentum, really across the entire area, but specifically in the northern part of our service area, around the Piedmont area. It's a nice mixing of folks that have lived here for a long time, grew up here, as well as move-ins from across the country. Like in a lot of the southeastern states, we are benefiting from folks looking for a higher value, less friction quality of life, and they can find that here.
That's good. How did the community and what the community needs, how did that lead you down the road into a freestanding ED versus urgent cares or other types of services?
Well, we do. We are AnMed is an integrated healthcare system. We have all aspects of care. It's certainly in the inpatient as well as the ambulatory setting. We are building in all of those areas. So the freestanding ED strategy is not exclusive to serving that overall part of the community, but it is a key part. And as we did research, including talking with people in the community and with our EMS partner, this was a significant opportunity that people in that area were suffering because they were being forced to either drive significantly to the north or to the south to be able to get to those services. But in addition, we view the freestanding ED project as a hub for overall healthcare, including those ambulatory offerings.
And just to put, sorry, Mensa, I was just going to add, to put a little bit of context around that, we have an area of Piedmont and Powdersville that's growing at a rate of 30% over this decade. So we'll have close to 50,000 people who have to drive great distances for that emergency care that William mentioned. The closest emergency center to our location is over 10 miles away. And so it really provides an opportunity to provide proximate needed services in a growing community. As William mentioned earlier, AnMed is an integrated healthcare system. And so we have many different responses to many different needs within the community regarding their health. And emergency care is one of those elements that enables us to take care of the immediate and emergent needs of patients and get them to a place if they require a higher level of care. We can do that seamlessly as an integrated health system, partnering with our EMS community and making sure that we have the appropriate care that the community needs. And if it's not emergency care, we can offer urgent care, primary care, telemedicine, and other solutions that our patients can either self-select or we can assist them with that.
I think the affiliated model is very, very important, and it is a differentiator for the services that we're providing. Being integrated into the entire network of care gives us the opportunity to help patients navigate overall care, and that's a real challenge. Sometimes folks may not end up at the right setting, and if that's the only setting that you offer, it may tend to be kind of the old adage, if everything looks like a nail, then if you have a hammer. We offer all of those services so we can help folks get to the right setting. Certainly, the dynamics around an emergency department, whether it's freestanding or it's part of one of our fully integrated campuses, the goal if folks is to take care of emergencies. We know that a large number of folks that show up in these settings could potentially be taken care of in other settings, and we will work to help with that. The other thing I would add relative to it is we've invested significantly in our electronic medical record, MyChart, and that every day is building as a chassis in this community for folks and how they connect to and access healthcare. And Brett and his team are doing a lot more around virtual and being able to connect through the web. That's going to continue. So bringing all those things together makes this a unique offering, certainly compared to an unaffiliated kind of an island, if you will, freestanding ED setting in the middle of the market.
I agree with that. I know my mom in particular, she's aging a bit, and she's had a couple of occurrences recently where we had to figure out, what to do. Does she need to go to an urgent care? Does she need to go to a freestanding ED, a hospital? We're lucky to have a new affiliated freestanding ED near my house. And so I was able to get her there. And I knew that if she went there, she would be able to go to a specific hospital if it needed to go that far. So I think it is really important. And, when you're not a medical professional, you don't know what you don't know. And you want to make sure that I think you have the right pathways in place to get where you need to be at the right amount of time. So I think that's a great example. You mentioned something, both of you mentioned, the EMS piece of this. And so often we focus on the facility itself, right? And those in the facility providing care. But oftentimes it's the transport to a hospital that can be life-saving and really critical. I had the experience this week of a little boy in a pool who started to drown. And it was the care in the ambulance that really ultimately helped him have a potential chance. So can you talk a little bit? I know you have a partnership and you've done quite a bit there and you've been recognized. Can you talk about your approach to the EMS services?
Sure. I'm very, very proud of our partnership in EMS, and it's three-way partnership with AnMed, Anderson County, and Medshore. The county made a decision a couple of years ago. I believe we had at least five separate ambulance services providing Brett's actually eight
Eight.
across the county, yeah, that were providing services. So we're a big county, but still it was not integrated. There were a lot of challenges with that. They made a decision they wanted to go to a fully integrated model. So we work with them. Our role in this is that we provide the medical direction out of our physicians, out of our medical, out of our emergency department. Um, it's a unique model that they brought forth. It's in some other communities, but it's a QRV, a quick response vehicle model. And basically what we have done, they have done, is decoupled the ambulance from the paramedic. So we have, I believe it's 17 QRV vehicles across the county today that are SUVs that have a paramedic that is in them, that he has or she have equipment. They respond independently, and then they call the truck if they need a truck. And conversely, when the truck is going out to a site, then if they need a paramedic, they call. The result of that has been two things that are really, really dramatic for us. One is, like a lot of things in healthcare today, it is very difficult to recruit and staff. This is a model that paramedics are really gravitating to. The last that I talked with our partners, we actually have a waiting list of folks that want to come work in this model. They love the work environment, the way that it operates. They feel like they're working at the top of their ability and really making an impact. So that's wonderful. If you can't staff your program, huge challenge. And a lot of communities have that challenge. The second is, if we look at response times across the entire service area, they have improved dramatically. And I've had the chance to go out and ride with one of our QRV vehicles and listen to them. I see the statistics in the improvement, but to hear them talk about the individual personal cases where they believe people are alive today because this model put us in a position to be able to respond better and quicker. So that's a huge advantage. Our Piedmont project, we intend to have an EMS substation there. These folks are usually moving. They're not in their site a lot, but we will have a site on our campus that will be their home base in that area. So we're very excited about that and really grateful for the relationship overall that we have. We think it's going to be an avenue, honestly, to provide more care. Mental, like you talked about, care being provided at the site. We think more and more we're going to be able to provide more care there at the site and have some really exciting ideas to be able to affect that once we get this chassis in place completely. It's still relatively new, but as we move along, we'll be able to do more things that will be able to keep people from having to come to the emergency department and get them to other settings of care. So really moving upstream. Very, very excited and grateful for the partnership.
That's an exciting approach. I mean, no pun intended, but I kind of feel like it's a surgical approach to EMS care. I mean, you're really sending, the specialist out there first. They can assess, figure out exactly what's needed, provide the care immediately, and then if they need more, they get the resources at that time. So it's a lot of resource management, it seems like. But I haven't really heard of that before, and I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I like the idea of providing more care on site.
Well, me too. And you mentioned the accolades. Our EMS system was awarded the EMS system recognized the EMS system of the year in South Carolina. So really proud of those folks. They are really on fire for what they do, and it's always great to work with people like that.
Congratulations.
So, I want to pick up on something that was stated recently on the folks wanting assistance in navigating the healthcare system, right? And you recognize that very important at AnMed. Coming from prior healthcare systems, I know we always had a lot of difficulty in helping those folks navigate that decision on where do I go for my urgent or emergent care needs, right? So the patients or their family members do that selection at a point in time where, speed is of the essence, right? You don't have any chance to decide, oh, do I go to urgent care? Do I just go to my physician office? Do I go to the hospital, et cetera? And so, patients can select this urgent care, freestanding emergency department, hospital ED, and there are differences in the ability to provide a level of comprehensive care at those different facilities, and also differences in the cost to the patient as well. I know a lot of hospital systems I've been at have really had a lot of difficulty in helping guide their patients proactively to make those decisions and what's best for them, of course, healthcare wise, but what's best for them from a cost standpoint there as well. How do you anticipate guiding your community into making these types of choices with their care?
The first thing I would say, Mike, I agree with everything you said, and it is a challenge. Kind of the foundational piece is the emergency is defined by, it's in the eye of the beholder. If I believe or a patient believes they have an emergency, it's an emergency. So that's what makes it such a challenge proactively. I think over time, as we have all the offerings that we've talked about in the community, it gives us a chance to educate and wear in. But at the point in time when someone believes that they're having an emergency is a very difficult and maybe not even an appropriate time for teaching. You do it somewhat after the fact as you go along. But Brett, you can speak more specifically about some of the things we're going to do to help people make the best educated decision they can.
Yeah, William, I mean, there's not really any one way to do it. We really have to have a multi-faceted approach. We try to educate people on our website about conditions to report to an emergency room versus conditions that would be more adequate for an urgent care center, as an example. We try to address that in our community outreach. Our care providers themselves provide guidance. As William just noted, sometimes that's after the fact. But in an emergency, minutes matter. And if you think you're having an emergency, then you go to the closest emergency room. You might find out after the fact that it may not have been an emergency, but you didn't know that until after you were already seen. So, the decision probably at that time was correct. And then maybe you'll know next time where to go in the future. But there's really no one way to communicate to folks. There's just a multifaceted way that we have to make those educational opportunities, and it has to be frequent, and it has to be consistent, and it has to be repeated. So we try to do that at every step we can, because you're right, Mike. I mean, it is expensive care depending on which venue you choose. And so it's a cost to the system, it's a cost to the patient. And so we want to make the wisest decisions we can.
All right. I want to go down a different path for a little bit and talk about the freestanding emergency department itself. There's a lot of, I think, challenges that systems are facing today. And when we think about an investment in a facility, these are facilities that really stick around for a long time. And the design around facilities changes. And so we're trying to design buildings to be flexible for the future, but support what you need today as well. Can you start by talking about what are some of those big picture goals or the vision you had for this freestanding emergency department? And then I'd like it to kind of take us down a road, and what are some of the strategies used to support those vision and goals?
Well, we really appreciate, and this is a unique opportunity for us to build greenfield something like this. So we can look over what our goals are, but having that flexibility is very much important, because we know things are changing as we went through our planning and where we're at today. We've made some decisions that have affected the allocation of space within our footprint already, and there'll probably be more to that. So having that flexibility is important. Our goals are to grow access to services. The freestanding ED is the major central component for that campus, but it's not the only one. by any means, and having the ability to flex some of that space and that asset around as demands change is important. Our goal is mentioned in the beginning, the growth in the community in the area. We're growing. We need and want to grow faster to keep up with that growth and give people a great opportunity to choose us when they need that care. Looking at success as we get out and start operating the center, we are being, I think, appropriately conservative with our projections of where we expect to be with patient demand. But that being said, I also believe we could really go well past those pretty quickly. So we're giving thought to that. And what are new things that we could build and bring to bear in that community? One of the fun parts of this is as we've gotten to know more people that live in that part of our community, and they're excited about what we're bringing to the campus there. But also by building those relationships, we're hearing more about, okay, well, what about this or what about that or this service? It's fun to be in a community where the population is growing, and in some ways the sky's the limit. And I don't mean that just for healthcare services overall. As the community is growing, a critical mass is developing that allows you to look at services and types of offerings that would not even been dreamed about a decade or more ago in that community. So that's a very exciting relationship for us to be in.
It is.
Brett?
And it's interesting that it's not even just the patients who live in this area who want to seek care closer to their homes. As we've been out meeting with people, promoting what we're bringing to the area, we've had a lot of interest and questions about employment. When is it going to open? We'd love to work at this location. Right now I'm driving 15 miles to work, and this is exactly the type of work I do, and I would love to work here and stay in my own community. So it's another opportunity to provide expanded jobs and other things that contribute to the economic viability of the community. So we're really excited about it.
All right, I want to shift a little bit. Aaron, you have been working on this project as the architect, and I'm curious to know, can you describe the program of this campus, this building, and maybe talk about some of the design strategies you've used to support those vision and goals that Brett and William have discussed?
The site itself is about 7 to 8 acres total. They're in the Piedmont area right off Interstate 85. And currently the program of the building is roughly usable, about 37,000 square feet, I believe, with about half and half. It's got a freestanding ED, 12 rooms, and along with including that are trauma. We have 2 trauma rooms there. We have an imaging suite that is immediately adjacent. We'll have CT, X-ray, and other related services to that. And as well as portable access, we can bring in MRI, mammo as required. And then we have an MOB, and I think that's where we're seeing a lot of excitement and conversations on the medical group side. We've got right now a 6-pod MOB, and the specialties are coming and asking to be included, anywhere from cardiovascular to ortho. So that service line is going to be incredible. And then also some physical therapy is included there. And as Brett and William have both mentioned, I think the idea of growth has been a huge proponent to planning. So there is a main chassis to this building. Not only we mentioned a chassis to healthcare, but our buildings do the same, and it has growth potential on the MOB side, whether it be vertical or horizontal. We've planned that into the site and the design to give them the flexibility to it's not flexibility to grow, but it's how can we grow with the least amount of impact, but also honoring today's dollars, right? It's not an open checkbook. So it's been a pretty fun process trying to pull all that together and figure that out. So that's really programmatically about where we're at. How we started the process is, and I'll try to be brief, but really as architects, we do a lot of times we go and offer a plan to someone and go, well, here's your floor plan. This is how we feel works best. But I think for this particular model, it's their first venture. So really is getting people, I say all the time, to take their hospital hats on. They're used to a cast of thousands. So how do we operate this building with a cast of twos, right? And so we held multiple meetings and we dug in to say, what is the process? What is the flow? And that drove the building shape, use, all of those things. So at the end of the day, they have a building that can be done efficiently, and the adjacencies are critical. Where are those? Are they in the right spot for a staff to work the building, and also for patients to be able to wayfind quickly and do that. So,
thank you, Aaron. Brett, you talked about in the community with this facility that there's been a lot of interest in employment, that people want to work here. It's closer to home. One of the things I think a lot of systems are seeing nationally is just the staffing shortages in general. Hopefully that's not going to be such an issue for you, particularly with all that interest. But what are some of the challenges you think you're trying to navigate or circumvent in this project?
Yeah, I think
how are you doing that?
You're exactly right. The entire industry is going through clinical workforce challenges right now, and it's not the emergency department's not immune to that. Thankfully, I think we're doing fairly well relative to national norms. But it goes along, I think, with the attractiveness and the growth of this area and people wanting to come here. But that also could pose a challenge in the growing pains of the community. So we're very sensitive to that and want to make sure that we are providing the right types of care in the locations where people want them, and to try to mitigate those challenges. But we try to do other things with respect to making sure that a location like this addresses patient experience issues as well. Our emergency departments across the upstate are filled with patients today and have capacity challenges and throughput challenges that contribute to poor patient satisfaction. And so there are opportunities to address that, which I think all of the emergency departments in the upstate and around the country are trying to address through innovative means, through staffing changes, through technologies, things like advanced check-in. You're not necessarily going to be seen before somebody else by checking in early, because we treat people on a severity level basis, but it is an opportunity to inform us when you're coming and what your condition is. So we're better prepared when you do show up. And so there are things like that we try to do to mitigate the challenges that every emergency department faces. And this new location will help provide more access. So it should help to address some of those high volume issues that some of the other emergency departments are facing right now around us.
Aaron, what are some of the design components that you're seeing that are being impacted by those things, right? You think about that early check-in. There's technology, I think, is bringing a lot of change to how we design a physical building.
So
what are you
technology
seeing?
works with us and then sometimes gives us challenges. So I think it's allowing technology, as Brent said, to get us arrived, right? How do we give that arrival experience? Some people like to see a smiling face, but how do we leverage technology? But also with that technology, there's infrastructure. So how do we as architects and engineers give them a flexible infrastructure? Because we just don't know where it's going, right? We have ideas. But the other component of that with technology comes equipment. So like never before, our IT rooms and our infrastructure, our core rooms are growing to service all the data we need. And then our equipment in our rooms is growing. So we are trying to control square footage, right, to get the best care. But we also have a growing amount of technology in each room. And how do we respond to that and respect that? I think one thing that's coming, some of the rooms are, setting up for telemed. Well, you don't just need a telemed room. Maybe it's an exam room that I can telemed from. So how do we leverage all of that into one cohesive design?
What about on the patient experience side? What are we doing to help facilitate those positive experiences for patients or their families?
You still asking me, or are you asking them?
Yeah,
that's okay. So
well, it could be anybody. Anybody can answer.
William and Brett did a great job of and their team of getting the user groups to the table, and we actually had patient advocacy with us, and they had a good ear to the community to say,
that's great.
This feels better. And I think at the end of the day, it's those critical touch points. When I enter, do I know where to go? Do I know how to go? Right. And do I feel that I was addressed? So it's really the design. And we did a lot of virtual reality studies to say, when I walk in, do I feel like I can see where I'm going? So it was really a lot of study on that to try to make sure that we could really address how a patient may flow in and through the building.
Flow is really important. That folks don't, and it's a great opportunity with a greenfield site to keep folks moving in one direction. A little bit different than what we deal with in our legacy campuses. That we do the best we can, but sometimes you just can't move things around. So try to keep things where no one ever has to reverse flow and go the other direction. Mm-hmm. That's a very positive experience for patients.
I think the other important element is
always
that
moving forward.
Patients aren't our only customers. EMS is also an important customer and partner with us, but so we're sensitive to that and want to make sure that incorporated in the design that we make our approach for them easy when they come on site, how to find their location of drop off, making sure that that's easily accessible and not any kind of obstructions or intrusive things that could impede their path. So things like that, and offering amenities for them, such as workplace stations and showers for their equipment and things like that really enables them to meet their needs and get back out on the road. And being located where we're located enables these EMS trucks to stay in their service area. Right now, there are service calls that they get that they have to drive 17 miles down to Anderson to deliver a patient to our hospital emergency department. And that not only is a great distance, but it also takes them out of their service area for quite a long time. So this is an opportunity to keep them in their service area and address the community need the best we can.
Yeah, and I think
what are you
Brett,
hearing from
the other aspect is one of their biggest day-to-day customers are their staff. If we're having staff issues and shortages, how do we honor what they do? How do we make things as easily accessible and adjacent, and have their workflows honor the day-to-day stuff they do? How do we get them to the point? Do we give them areas of respite that are far enough away but attached, right? We know the proverbial eat at your desk scenario because the break room's 4 miles down. So how do we take those and keep our staff functioning well and happy so they can care for patients, take those obstacles out of their way?
Thank you, Aaron. You went right down the road where I was headed.
Yeah, absolutely right. I was going to state right that the patient experience, not only patient experience is so important, right? The ability to, provide that patient-centric approach with personalized, compassionate care, right, leads to a positive patient experience. And as we know, patients that report a positive patient experience are more compliant with discharge instructions and lead to a better health outcome for the patient. Less returns to the hospital, 30-day returns, et cetera. But in so doing, giving our staff the ability and really the time to provide that patient-centric approach also impacts in a positive way the staff engagement as well. So, which is really important in not only impacting patient experience, but also retaining staff as well.
But it absolutely is. It coordinates well with the work that we're doing around our culture also. And this will be a great opportunity to bring a brand new team onto a brand new playing field, so to speak. And we are working hard on our game plan and how we deliver that. Our mantra of better starts here to everyone who puts their faith in us. So it's a wonderful opportunity to bring all of these aspects of the experience together as we cut the ribbon and take off. We don't have so many of those types of experiences, so this is really fun.
Culture building is incredible because, cultural eat strategy for lunch, that kind of old saying, but it's really important. And I applaud you guys for really focusing on that.
Well, it is. And it's not just what you say, it's really how you act, what you value, how you work together, how you communicate, how you connect to purpose. And this, we believe, will be a wonderful example of that.
So I wanted to ask maybe a hypothetical question. So William and Brett, let's say I'm another healthcare executive in an area that's not competing with AnMed, that is considering an FSED, and I see you at maybe an ACHE meeting or another conference, et cetera, in the hallway between sessions, and we've got 1 minute to chat, and I introduce myself and I tell you, hey, we're considering an FSED over here in wherever, Washington, D.C. And you want to tell me, let me tell you, I've learned 3 things about this, but you've got 1 minute to tell me that because we've got to go to our next session. What would you say to me?
Good on-the-spot question,
yeah.
Mike.
Well, I'll give you, we have lots of chance to think about that, right? But,
I would say a couple things quickly. One would be really understanding the why. What are you trying to achieve? Because a lot of these are done with different reasons. I mean, you mentioned Texas, and I know you shouldn't throw everybody into this bucket, but the strategy basically is to put one in front of every competitor's hospital so that you can divert those patients into your system. And I'm not saying that that's wrong or bad, but you just need to understand, what is your why? Our why here is to connect into our system and provide care there. We think that is a little different. The other is be willing to put the time in on the front end to plan this, both the building and maybe even more importantly, how you operate. Put the time into it to really do it right. Because once the concrete, and I don't mean just the facility, hardens, it's really hard to make those changes. So if we can really do a great job up front, that's going to help you a lot. There'll be 2 things I would say. Brett?
Yeah, I think and I would just build on what you just alluded to, which is, when we look at this, when we're thinking about the design of the building, the expense of the building, how are we being very thoughtful in how it's designed, how it's operated, and how it's staffed, because the whole idea behind a freestanding ED environment is that it needs to be customer responsive. It has to be easily accessible. It is an expensive, capital intensive endeavor. So you have to be thoughtful about how you're spending your resources and, frankly, how you're locating it. People use these as retail oriented types of quick access locations of service. So location is a critical element to this as well. And so we're very mindful of that in terms of the planning of our location.
I think that it's the operations first. Form follows function. You got to get the operations down. How's it going to work? And then design it to support that work, which is what Aaron is all about. But Aaron, so we asked William and Brett what their kind of pointers would be. what are your pointers as an architect for someone you're at a conference, right? You're at NCHEA, you're at PDC, and someone says, hey, we're considering building a freestanding ED. What are your pointers? You have got to consider these things.
I think for us, from the design side, is really getting it kicked off properly. And Brett and William have both said this. So it's not designing a building. That's not how we start this. With this particular venture, it's we had several meetings on the planning side, and I'm sure we wore Brett and this team out, but going through structure. How is the leadership structure? How is our decision-making process going to be completed and done? Who is, we had a fun Dr. No. Who's Dr. No? Who's going to make the call, thumbs up, thumbs down? Who is going to be and navigate the user groups? And then when we get into a sticky discussion, who is the person that comes in or the team that makes the call? And when you do that on the front end, we're not arguing about it in the middle. And I think the one thing for us is make sure, and William said when the concrete is settled, boy, that's pretty deep, William, because it's not just physical, right? But if we don't understand why we made a decision on the design side and the building opens, we're going to argue about what it is and not know why we did it. So we took a lot of time on the front to figure that out, and to the best we could, right? So I think that's important.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, William. It was a great discussion today. We had a lot of really good input, and I appreciate your time.
Well, we do as well. Thank you. And we love what we're doing, and who we're doing it with and where we're doing it. And it's fun to be able to share. It's fun to be able to share about it.
It's now time for the Pulse, where we're going to go over a few key takeaways from our discussion with Brett and William and Aaron.
All right, I'll start with one.
Okay.
FSEDs have a ton of potential advantages for the patient as well as the provider or healthcare system. The successful FSED will incorporate input from multiple stakeholders, including the community as well as care staff, during the planning stages.
Yeah, I think another one. It also includes kind of that integration or discussions with different individuals, right? We're thinking about what is the future? You know, you're investing in this building. We want to make sure it meets the needs today, but that it can also support the changes coming down the road. So really understanding the operations, how's it going to work? What are we doing today that maybe we need to do a little bit differently? And then put the design to support that. That comes afterwards, that form follows function. I think that's another really important one in particular here.
Absolutely. And as we all know from March of 2020 moving forward, patient care needs and community needs have changed significantly. So third one, urgent care clinics, FSEDs, and hospital-based EDs each carry different capabilities to provide care, and there are different cost impacts to the patient. So knowing that, as well as patients and their family members self-select their location of choice for urgent or emergent care, the healthcare system must consider a strategy for helping that patient choose the venue that's most appropriate for their urgent or emergent care needs.
I'm going to throw one more out there. We oftentimes think of emergency care as, the moment you hit the door of the emergency department. But really, I think what we talked about today is that emergency care really starts at the moment the patient decides they're having the emergency, and how that care gets to them initially. So I think, that integration with EMS, and who's that first person on site to help provide that emergency care, and then what's that process look like to get them to the FSED or the hospital. So I think that's another important one.
I agree. As you mentioned earlier, right, that time to the hospital or that time to the facility is key, and often key to ensuring a patient stays alive.